Hello everyone and welcome back to Racing Weekly, a podcast and YouTube show brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365. I'm Rishi Persad, joined by Steve Ryder as usual, and we welcome back to the show Andy Holding. Andy, Steve and I were musing just before you arrived grandly on set to say that I think it's fair to say, it's been one of the best starts to National Hunt season that we can remember. What are your sentiments about it, sir?
Yeah, I don't think we're overplaying that either. I think genuinely we've seen some really stellar performances, and the time figures have been good as well. We've had a lot of strongly run races to give us some kind of indication that we're looking at championship level already, with some of these sort of novice hurdles, and novice chases as well have been really good. We're beginning to slowly each weekend see the big guns enter the stage. Willie Mullins is just beginning to crank up his battalions. I think he kind of likes to give Gordon Elliott the early sort of skirmishes, you know, the likes of Navan, Down Royal, and even over the weekend at Fairyhouse were very much his. Yeah. But I think Willie's just quite happy just sitting on the sidelines and waiting to sort of pounce Christmas onwards. That's when he brings out his really good ones, his good juveniles, his good novice chasers, really attack that 4-day meeting at Leopardstown, and then obviously into the new year and trying to catch Dan Skelton, who's already set up what seemingly is an unassailable lead, because he's won a lot of big prizes and he's over $1.5 million now. Yeah. So that'll take some pegging back. But it's been a great start to the season, and we can't wait for the rest of it.
And as Steve, not only are we getting quality performances, championship quality performances, but also real drama as well, with obviously a few big names not quite living up to expectation for one reason or another.
Yeah, anti-post markets turned upside down pretty much every week. But yeah, I'm arguably more excited to do the review section of this show than the preview section, and that's with 2 Grade 1s coming up at Sandown. So that kind of shows how good the action and talking points over this weekend were. Well,
let's not keep Steve or anyone waiting any longer, and let's get into this week's racing recap. And we start with the race that surely people will still be talking about by the end of this week, as we were talking about it going into last week, and that's the Fighting Fifth. Andy, I'll just open the floor up and you can just tell me what you made of the whole race and of the horses that you feel were most noteworthy to mention.
I mean, it was just bizarre, wasn't it? It was almost like the Champion Hurdle all over again. You thought you'd seen it all that day back in March, and then to see 2 top-class horses do exactly the same at the same hurdle, and like I say, almost identical falls where they've took off too early, landed on top of the hurdle, was absolutely bizarre. You could hear the gasps from the crowd, and I remember, like, even watching it on telly, you could hear the rumourings in the crowd, still almost in a state of shock for about 2 or 3 furlongs going down to the back straight. You could still hear it picking up on the commentary. So everyone was just sort of trying to come to terms with what they'd seen. And there was old Golden Ace picking up the pieces yet again. Probably not going to get the credit that she deserves, but she's proven now twice that jumping 8 flights of hurdles at speed is not as easy as what it's made out to be. And it's definitely caught out the new line. Seemingly it looks like it's caught out Constitution Hill for the final time over hurdles. I can't believe that they'll be thinking about risking him again. I think Nicky and obviously Michael Buckley, they're 2 huge horse lovers at the first and foremost. You could hear the emotion in Nicky's voice at the end of the race as well when they interviewed him. A, he couldn't explain it, but B, he was genuinely shaken to the core. And I just don't think he wants to put himself or Michael through that again, in particular the horse, who probably now deserves maybe a crack at the flat or something different. But it's definitely opened up the champion hurdle market. So we've got lots of discuss with the ramifications now. Horses coming in from left field, horses like Alexi and Celtic Dino, seemingly handicappers a month ago, and now all of a sudden in the conversation as well. What about these guys? These have got a chance in what looks an open division. You know, where does Lossiemouth go and where does Sergino fit? Do they bring him back from chasing? So lots and lots of things on the back of that fallout for that race at Newcastle.
We'll get your thoughts on the champion hurdle in just a moment. But Steve, I want to ask you a couple of things about the Fighting Fifth. One, with Constitution Hill, is it done and dusted? I mean, it seems like, as Andy's saying, Nicky Henderson, a lot of people around the horse think that don't go back over hurdles. The new line Are you worried? Should people be worried, given what we've seen with Constitution Hill? Should be worried about what it might do to New Lion to have a fall like that? Because of course Constitution Hill jumped in a similar manner before that, with that indecisive approach to a hurdle, and we've seen what's happened with him. Every horse is different, but now, if you're a supporter of that horse, are you concerned?
No, I don't think that you'll ever see the New Lion making the running ever again. I just didn't think it suited him. He cocked his jaw, I think it was the 4th, and nearly ran out. Obviously, it wasn't by design to make the running. He was obviously there to put pressure on Constitution Hill, and in the end, as a race rider, it worked. Constitution Hill made a mistake and fell, but that probably hindered the New Lion at the same time, because he just shouldn't be front running, should he? I've heard a lot that people thought he was beaten at the time that he fell. No. I thought Harry Skelton was winding it up in the knowledge that you're against 2 pacey horses in Golden Ace and Amsterdam, and he wanted to bring stamina into play. I thought he would have won that if it had stayed on his feet. I've heard Amsterdam called some names with his finishing effort.
That's harsh.
I thought so. I thought it struck very much as he needed the run as opposed to an attitude problem. If you look at it, 14th furlong, he was 12.83, where Golden Ace was 13.09. 15th furlong, 12.89, where Golden Ace was 12.93. And then he completely emptied late on. You need to remember Willie Mullins at this time of the year, Andy said it in the intro, he's only now getting going. Remember last year, they were all coming on massively from that run. I think he'll still head to the Christmas hurdle at Kempton, and they'll keep Lossiemouth over in Ireland. And I think he'll be overlooked in that. I don't think he'll go off favourite for that, and I think Amsterdam will take a huge step forward.
A lot of connection, or a lot of people associated with Golden Ace, you could tell there's a slight irritation in their voice. She's won the champion hurdle in the Fighting Fifth, and understandably not getting enough credit. I think it's fair to say, understandably, when you've given State Man, Constitution Hill fell at the festival, and Constitution Hill and the New Lion in this race, in the grand scheme of life, or in the race itself, in those 2 races, you've got 4 major players in those 2 races have fallen. So you can understand why people are a bit distracted. Yeah. However, she has won a champion hurdle in the Fighting Fifth. It
all depends what your definition of lucky is, isn't it? I mean, yes, there's got to be a certain amount of fortune that those 4 horses have all fallen. You know, the New Lion, State Man, and Constitution Hill a couple of times. But at the end of the day, you've got to jump 8 flights of hurdles at speed. And she's done that and the others haven't. So like I say, it all depends on your own personal interpretation of it. At least with her, you know, she's bomb-proof. Yeah. And I thought actually her victory in the Fighting Fifth was against the grain with her overall profile. We know she needed the run badly first time. Obviously there was a bad trachea wash which came to light, but she's always a better horse in the spring. So to actually win the Fighting Fifth way ahead of time for her was a massive upgradable performance. And even if, like I say, the New Lion had stayed on his feet, it wasn't absolutely all done and dusted that she might not have won anyway. Yeah.
A view on Golden Ace before I give you the market for the champion hurdle?
She winged the last, didn't she? She needed that jump at the last to get back past Amsterdam. Jump index of 8.7 for that final hurdle. I think it says a lot that the handicappers left her alone on 152 though. So they've basically, obviously, rated the race around Amsterdam and Nemean Lion, and you'd be disappointed if 152 is good enough to win another champion hurdle.
Well, the defending champion, Golden Ace, is 14-1 with Bet365 for the champion hurdle. Your favourite is Lossiemouth at 2-1. Sergino has come into the picture significantly. He is the second favourite with Bet365 at 4-1. The New Lion is 5s. William Money 8-1. Constitution Hill, the former champion, unlikely to race over hurdles again, 12-1. Golden Ace 14s, Woodoo 16s, Amsterdam, Cargesi 20s. You mentioned Alexi 25-1, same price as Celtic Dino. First dibs on how you would play the champion hurdle market now, if you had to, if you wanted to.
Well, Sergino, talent-wise, you know, you'd have to walk very close to making favourite, wouldn't you? You know, we don't know for certain.
He obviously bolted up in the race last year.
Yeah, he won the Fighting Fifth, didn't he? And then obviously made mincemeat of Ballyburn. He's a bit like Sia then, though. He's obviously got quite a bit of fragility about him. They're probably only running, you know, twice. I think Sia then was the same, wasn't it? I think Nicky Henderson back in the day used to run him once. Usually at Sandown, wasn't it? And that conditions hurdle just to put a little bit of an edge on him, and then he used to go and win the champion hurdle. So probably something similar with Sergino. There'll be one prep run, and then they'll see whether they've got a champion hurdle horse or not. I'm a big fan of William Money, because I actually thought last year's Supreme, similar to Constitution Hill's Supreme on the data, when he won his year, was an incredibly good Supreme last season. We've already seen what Capek de Board has done. We've already seen what Romeo Coolio has done. And William Money split the pair. He was also going to be going chasing, but Barry Connell thought, this is up for grabs here now, and we've got a horse that, based, like I said, based on the data, the Supreme was a lot better than Golden Aces Champion Hurdle. So you've got any of those three going over hurdles have got to be included into the equation. But obviously the other two have gone chasing, so the door's wide open for William Money to say, okay, we don't have to take those two horses on again. Let's just stick to what we're good at, jumping 8 flights of hurdles at speed, and we've got a serious player. I think he was 20 to 1 when Barry O'Connell threw the bone out there in the media to say that was going to be the plan. I think he was 14, 12 to 1 when I put him on my 10 to follow column, I think about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he's now into single figures 8 to 1.
Yep.
If he does something pretty good first time out at Leopardstown over that Christmas period, which I think is the plan, then he could be even shorter. So I'm a big fan of William Money. He's got a great cruising speed, good attitude. We know he loves Cheltenham. So yeah, he'd be the way I'd go right at this very moment in time, William Money.
Very exciting horse, William Money. What about you, Steve?
I'm team Lossie Malthorse last year, so I was gutted the fact that they went for the Mare's Hurdle instead. And yeah, I think returning to Cheltenham, I hear a lot about her form going into the race and how strong are some of the races that she's done, but she's completely transformed when she's at Cheltenham. She won the Triumph, she's won 2 Mare's Hurdles, and I think this is the time for her to win her 4th race at the Cheltenham Festival, hopefully the Champion Hurdle this year.
What an incredible horse she is anyway, regardless. Okay. That's a look at the Champion Hurdle and certainly the ramifications of how things panned out from the weekend. And clearly there's more that's going to happen. The Christmas Hurdle, what happens in Ireland over the Christmas period as well. Let's talk about the Hatton's Grace from the weekend. And Teahupoo won that race for the 3rd time. Obviously was second to Lossiemouth the year before. Fabulous horse, fabulous race. But he only just scrambled home from Ballyburn.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit cosier jumping the last. Obviously, track position, I think, meant a lot. He kind of managed to get 3 lengths on Ballyburn jumping the last just by that track position. I thought the Elliott team did it a lot better this year than last. It was a stronger pace, and Teahupoo was basically flat out for that race, according to Jack Kennedy. But Cashel Lad did the perfect job, led him to the last, and in the end, he just managed to cling on, didn't he? Watching from 2 out, not knowing the horses, you could understand why Ballyburn is a shorter price for the Stayers Hurdle. But we do know the horses. We know that Teahupoo, if there are grade 1s over hurdles over longer than 3 miles, he'd be running in them because he's a proper stayer. I'd be worried about Ballyburn and how keen he is in his races. This was 2.5. Yes, it was his first run of the season, but we've seen him do this pretty much on all of his runs. I know Willie said about changing tactics and possibly going back to front running and changing things that way, but I think if they meet again over 3 miles, I think Teahupoo will confirm that form. This was also good to soft ground. We know that if it's going to be soft in a Stayers Hurdle or at Christmas, which Gordon has said, we might be able to then see him again. And I just loved the fact, and we're going to do a bit of an analysis for Racing TV later, if you slow down approaching the final hurdle, Teahupoo pricks his ears, then once he gets over, pins them back and really fights towards the finish, and that's what you want in a racehorse.
As he's proven time and time again. What was your take on both horses' relative merits for the Stayers Hurdle, Teahupoo and Ballyburn?
I think Teahupoo is the sort of benchmark, isn't he, for that division, has been for the last 2 years. At least he's got a really consistent level of form, albeit we don't see a lot of him. So he's going to be bang there, isn't he? I think he does divide opinion, divides the crowd, doesn't he, Teahupoo? Not everyone's totally convinced by him. He won of quite a weak division when he did win it. But yeah, you've got to respect him. And yeah, I thought it was a really excellent effort on Saturday because Sunday. He had every reason to sort of shirk that, and he didn't. But at the same time, I thought Ballyburn was really good. I thought Teahupoo would win that comfortably, because I thought Ballyburn might not necessarily be on the money first time out, whereas Teahupoo, as we know, year in, year out, first time out, Gordon Elliott likes to strike while the iron's hot with him, put him away and then go straight to the festival. So of the two on Sunday, you would have thought he's going to be the one. But as Ballyboon proved, he was up for the fight. And it was a great race. We saw a great race there. We saw an unbelievable finish for the Royal Bond as well.
Oh, yeah.
When, Cocktail Brute almost gave away what looked an unassailable lead with Blake coming back at him. I was a little bit underwhelmed by Cocktail Brute because he'd won in a fast time first time out at Punchestown, beating a good horse called Colcannon. The time figure was, really good. And I thought he was a shoe-in on Sunday, and he only just won by the narrowest of margins. So those two races really did set the pulses racing, and the crowd were treated to two fantastic finishes. So yeah, we learnt plenty. I don't think Cocktail Brute now is a supreme horse, and I still think the Stayers Hurdle division is wide open, and open for a bit of an outlier to come in from left field.
Okay, well, we're going to roll the prices out for you. Tell me if I mention anything. Ballyburn's the 94 favourite for the Stayers with Bet365. Teahupoo 3-1. Impostoire, who we'll talk about, won last weekend 10-1. Bob Ollinger, the defending champion, 12-1. Honesty Policy 16s. Poneros 16s. The Yellow Clay 16s. Cabral du Matin 20s. Kawabunga is 20s. Derry Heston Paddy 25. Salvatore Mundi. Thalim Wudu 25-1. Hi, Steve. Anzadam El Fabio, and there's obviously some interesting names beyond that. Have I touched on a horse that might be an outlier?
I think we've got to put Impostoire Trois into the conversation.
Okay.
It wasn't the strongest of run races on Friday at Newbury. I think in hindsight, if you had had a chance to ride the race again, Sean Bone would have made a little bit more use of strong lead. I could see what he was trying to do and kick at the top of the home straight. But in the end, that manoeuvre, I think, burst his own horse. Yeah. He was going flat out for the thick end of half a mile, and it allowed, obviously, James Bowman just to track him through and pick his pocket. I think had he probably wound the pace up or been in a little bit more of a stronger position by picking up the run and saying, right, I'm going to take this race by the scruff of the neck and make it a proper test for a circuit where he went a little bit more conservatively throughout that circuit instead of just going flat out for that short period of time. I think he might have drew a bit more of the stamina reserves out of Impostoire Trois, but Impostoire Trois has now proven at Aintree and at Newbury that he loves a battle. He had every right to shirk that the other day up against a very strong stayer, and he's definitely putting his credentials on the line. And I do think Woodhoo as well is another one to mention. Now Steve's going to be horrified by me even thinking of perhaps stepping her up in trip.
That was a look he just got.
I know. Don't say, Andy, don't put the thought in their head. But when she won at Ascot, Gordon was saying that if they do change trip, she's going to go up rather than down. So even though they've kind of like dangled a carrot again in the press today, saying, oh, we might even go back down the Champion Hurdle, but I can't see that happening for the life of me. But I'm now becoming a bit of a believer with Woodhoo. I was bowled over by a victory against Celtic Dino, who got first runner the other day. I rate Celtic Dino really highly. They punted him off the boards at Ascot, and he was 4 or 5 lengths clear, and she still ran him down easily. And I don't think Celtic Dino stopped running. He went hard all the way to the line. So I want to stick with Woodhoo throughout the rest of the season, whether it's 2.5 miles or, dare I say, 3 miles. I'd want to keep her inside, but I do think she will get 3 miles because she settles fantastically well. She's got an amazing constitution, and she just keeps galloping. Yeah. I think the Stayers Hurdle would be definitely well within her remit if they decided to skip the mares.
The Ascot race is obviously strong form. Obviously, Celtic Dino had thumped Alexi at Chepstow, and she picked him up, and he still ran hard to the line, and she's beat him nicely. So that's an interesting play, but she's obviously shorter for the mares, much shorter, Steve. As you rightly pointed out long ago, that would be the race for her. What about the Stayers Hurdle, though, for you? Who do you think's the play now? Do you see something in a Woodhoo Impostoire, Cabral du Matin, something that...
It depends what they do with Impostoire, because, I mean, it was well backed. It was 9-2 when we recorded this last week. Obviously, Honesty Policy was in the race, and JP had those two options for it. I was slightly concerned about the fact of him backing up quickly, because if you look at when he's won after 187 days, 322 days, 189 days, and then was second in a Coral Cup after 102 days. So there was that slight question mark coming into this race of, can he back it up? Now that he has, brilliant. What are they now going to do with him? Are they going to go to Ascot, let's say, or are they now going to keep him fresh and bring him back for a Stayers Hurdle? I'd prefer the latter. I think if he goes now straight to the Stayers Hurdle, I'd probably have a cover bet on him. But I still think Teahupoo is the one to beat in this division. He'd have been a really impressive winner of the race last year without Bob Ollinger in the race, and that would have been on the fastest ground that Teahupoo would have wanted. Recently, the Cheltenham Festival has been a soft ground festival, and hopefully it's going to be the same again this year. And then it will bring the stamina into play of Woodoo over that intermediate trip.
But if it's good ground,
then I'll be slightly, then I'll be worried. But the fact that Gordon's got 3 or 4 options in the Stayers, I think that will hopefully make his mind.
I mean, they could shuffle around the pack, you know. He's obviously got the yellow clay as well, you mentioned that. I'm not sure where we stand with him at the moment. We'll find out a little bit more with him when he goes up to 3 miles, and if he does something over the Christmas period in that race, then they're thinking, well, we've got him for that, and then what do you do with Woodoo?
Well, champion hurdle.
Yeah.
Right, we've spoken about Impostoire from the long distance hurdle beating strong leaders, so we're sticking with Newbury now. And Panic Attack achieved a relatively rare double in winning the Paddy Power Gold Cup at Cheltenham and the Coral Gold Cup, obviously the old Hennessy. Celestial Gold did it for the Pipes more than 20 years ago. But this mare, leading up to the race, I didn't think there would be much support, but then she was back before the race.
Yeah.
And she was ridden with confidence that she'd stay the trip. That was a thing for me. Tristan Durrell gave her a beautiful ride.
Yeah, it was a classic case of preserving energy by her jumping. I thought her jumping won of the race. She was absolutely pinpoint accurate. I've actually watched the race about 3 or 4 times because I've gone back and watched 2 or 3 horses individually and done their own little microcosm to see how they actually performed on their own in isolation. So I watched Panic Attack all the way. Panic Attack all the way around twice, and I didn't see her make a mistake. Her jumps at the final ditch, the second last and the last, were absolutely unbelievable. I'd say very, very confident ride by Tristan Doyle. Probably is now he's getting into that sort of upper echelon of top quality riders. Great number 2 for the Skeltons.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a big feather in his cap, and it opens up kind of a few options for her as well going forward. You know, they'll probably think of the Cheltenham race, I would have thought. That's the 3 mile one, the race that Martin won last season. They'll definitely enter in the Grand National. Why not? I think it's always a good guide towards the Grand National, this race. But I'd certainly want to point out a couple of horses that I thought overachieved given the start of the race. And I think the elephant in the room once again has to be laid out on the line. These standing starts are an absolute joke. I mean, it's been going on now for 2 or 3 years, and I don't think anyone's resolved it. It's a bit like the old handball in the box in the Premier League and with VAR. Whether it strikes a hand, or is it deliberate? Is it in a natural position? All this nonsense. But they've got to sort this standing start out. I think the standing start is the bane of national hunt racing. I can't see the problem with them just coming in as jockeys at a nice gentle gallop and just let them go. But the starters obviously got this ruling that they can't allow them to do that. Instead of using common sense like a referee does and just referees the game properly, they've got this rule where you can't let them go. But in making them have a standing start, it's costing 3 or 4 horses any chance of winning. I mean, the Doyen Chief, he was a busted flush. Yeah. If you back the Doyen Chief,
which I did,
you're absolutely hopping mad. The connections out, laid it out for that. It's a 142 grand race, and they hadn't had a sniff from the start. Pick Rock, what an unbelievable race he ran. He was last. He was the other chief sufferer, and he's ended up finishing 5th. I mean, if you go back and watch him, he was last jump in the water jump, and he's passed every horse bar 4. He has run his face off, and you can see why they backed him. He was like 20 to 1 anti-post, into 6 to 1 on the day. There was a huge amount of confidence surrounding the chances of him. If he would have broke cleanly, he would have definitely won. I've no doubt in my mind Pick Rock was the best handicapped horse in that race. Generous Tom was another one. When the tapes went up, he shied away from it. he somehow worked himself back into a challenging position, and he's finished 4th. And looking, long term, the likes of Pick Rock, Gorgeous Tom, they're real viable Grand National candidates. Particularly Gorgeous Tom, if he got good ground, which he prefers, he's got Grade 1 form over fences. He's got that sort of rule of the world look about him. A classy horse with little mileage that has proven himself in a strongly run 3 mile 2 on a flat track where the fences come up rat-a-tat. So I'd massively upgrade Pick Rock, Gorgeous Tom, and was it Kataradori?
Kataradori,
yeah. That was the other. There was 3 of them.
Yeah.
3 of them all got completely and utterly nailed at the start. But like I say, that's my rant off my soapbox. But those standing starts drive me absolutely batty.
You have a sympathetic ear, because I don't like them either. I also backed the Doyen Chief, so I was furious.
Yeah, we would be.
Because obviously the majority, because didn't return the stake on it. Anyway, but the point, the only thing I'd say about that, Steve, is I accept that the standing starts don't work, but the jockeys don't always help the starter because it's a big race. They rush a little bit to the tape, and once you rush, then the starter goes, hang on a second. So there needs to be a bit more of a compromise between starters and jockeys, but the standing start is clearly not the answer to it. Surely they've got to do something about that.
Yeah, and I'm sure they will. There'll be lots of conversations in the run-up to the Cheltenham Festival. I think this year, after what happened last year, there was some where false starts, and then there was some where we were let off 200 metres before the actual tape. Like, they just need to have a look at the whole system again and nail down a protocol, really, that actually works. Because, everyone can see that it's not working.
The winner, Panic Attack, she is 10-1 for the Mayor's Chase at the Cheltenham Festival with Bet365. 1 or 2 people have mentioned her for the King George, so I just quickly checked her price for that. She's 33-1 for the King George. If she went for that race, it reminds me of the old days. Do you remember Teton Mill, who won the Badger Beer, then the Hennessy, and then went on to the King George? She's moving in that. I mean, she's made enormous progress already. I'm not saying she's that class yet, and obviously we've seen a lot of good horses put their marker down for a race like that, but we don't know where she's going to end up now given the progress she's made. She
is a mare that's thriving, and if you've got a thriving mare at this time of the year, you just crack on. And I thought the Skeltons did exactly the right thing in running her here. She was £3 well in at the weights for that Paddy Power Gold Cup victory. She ran under a £4 penalty. The handicappers raised her £5 here up to a mark of 147, which in theory is £8 higher than she won off on Saturday. But Andy touched on her jumping. According to Race IQ, she gained 25 lengths overall. Amazing. And it's one of those figures that you look at and go, no. And then you watch it back and you go, actually, she was pinpoint at all of her fences. I thought it was a really good ride by Tristan Darrell, who Andy touched on. It has improved so much. He used to be a rider for the Skeltons when they were getting used to the game and ridden out the back. And he's now an able deputy.
Seriously good,
I thought it was interesting to see how Myertown will come back from that fall. You hope that doesn't leave an effect like it did on Ahoy Senor for the same connections. Always jumps a bit left-handed, which was kind of his biggest asset, really, his jumping. And it'd be interesting going forward. But Panic Attack, I'd just crack on because these mares don't stay in that form for too long. It's hard to see them maintain that over a full season, which would be the doubts around backing her for Cheltenham or Aintree.
Can I stay with you for the John Franklin Novices Chase, which went to Wendigo? I love that horse, and I thought Gavin Sheehan gave him a great ride. Just kept him in the fight, even though no questions asked, travelled better. And then, of course, the big talking point with regards to more people talking about Regent Stroll and what he may or may not do. What was your view on him and the result?
I'll touch on the winner. Like Wendigo, I thought it was a clever ride, 102%. Finishing speed percentage, and that's with Regent Stroll doing what he did. It was a really good option in order to just let him do his own thing and blow himself out going too fast in front. He obviously had the form. He finished second in the Challow behind the New Lion at this track last season. Was slightly unlucky when 5th in the Albert Bartlett was hampered, was kind of on the wrong part of the track as well. So I do think he's a viable Brown Advisory candidate going forward. It's just whether he is good enough to beat the likes of Final Demand, who definitely sets the standard on what's been achieved. But Regent Stroll, I'd just drop him back to 2 miles and see if we'll do the same thing again. Jump index with Race IQ, 9.1, and you can see why. as scary as it would have been for Harry Cobden to, and you don't get many horses that run away with Harry Cobden, but he was being run away with, but he still saw a stride and just let him go. Surely you drop him back to 2 miles, let him do his thing and see if he holds out this time.
What did you think of him?
I think it's an issue going forward. I just don't like backing horses, tipping horses that have got a bit of a kink in them.
Yeah.
Yes, he's got a huge amount of ability. We can all see that. I'm sure if they harness it in the right direction, he will win some nice races. But he wouldn't be a horse I'd be looking to take too short a price about.
He'll always be a short price as well, won't he?
He'll always sucker you in, but I think he'll disappoint you more than he'll, do you a favour. So I'd have my doubts about him. I just don't like horses, have to wear a hood, and they've just got an all or nothing kind of style of race. And yes, of course, it's going to come off every now and again, but in the long term, I just don't think there's any future backing constantly, siding with horses like that. So I was really impressed with Wendigo, and I was also hugely impressed with the way that No Questions Asked went through the race. He looked like the best horse through 9/10 of it. Once he got his pocket picked, I think the best horse won on the day. He just outstayed No Questions Asked, but he jumped and travelled so well. Yeah. I bet Ben Pauly couldn't believe his ill fortune, really. And it'd be interesting to see which way they go with him. Knowing Ben, they'll continue a path down the graded route. But, if he gets on a nice handicap mark, I haven't seen it yet, but he could be one for that novices handicap at the festival, because there's no intermediate. Yeah, no. There's no intermediate chase now other than that one at the festival. And he had a crack at the Martin Pipe last season. Unfortunately, that was one of his poorest runs. Yeah. But he's a talented horse, No Questions Asked, make no mistake about that. I'd sooner follow him than I would Regent Stroll. Yeah, I get that.
For Wendigo, if you're interested in the Brown Advisory, certainly each way, 14-1 with Bet365. Final demand, understandably, a very short price, 5-4 favourite. I love Wendigo. I love the way how he knuckles down, and I know that
it's class.
No Questions Asked travel well, but he's got a good attitude, Wendigo, and Gavin Sheehan gets on really well with him. Paul Nicholls, out of luck with Regent Stroll. But I think the return of Tutti Quanti, or return to form, obviously, with that run under his belt this season, that was really impressive, because I thought they were doing too much in the early part of the race, because he wasn't given an easy, the hot fuss sat on his tail and pressurised him. I thought I was a bit worried about what would happen going between second to last to the line, but he stayed on nicely.
Yeah, in contrast to Regent Stroll, it was controlled aggression, wasn't it? He went a nice pace, but he was fully confident with his horse was going to keep finding off the front. And I thought we saw Cobden in his best, not only on that horse, but on Twin Jets as well, where you think, oh, has he got the fractions right here? But he's a man riding right at the top of his game. We talked about Tristan Dorr. Harry Cobden is, he's in that top three.
I think he's riding better now than he's ever done.
Yeah, and he's not riding with the ammunition that some of the other stables have been afforded. He's winning on horses he perhaps shouldn't be winning on. And I think that's always a sign of a good jockey. Fair play to the horse, and I think he beat a good field. That was a good quality race, and to be fair, none of the others never looked like catching him. And the time figure was pretty healthy as well. Yeah. It wasn't the best on the day, or the two-day meeting. We'll maybe touch upon that as well when we review one or two other horses. Yeah. But yeah, it was a class ride, and good to see Cobden, back in the limelight.
And the thing, obviously, Indivar Blue made up ground into it. Indemnity obviously travelled was probably going to win at one point, but actually from the last to the line, Tutti Quanti is comfortably holding them.
Yeah, you can see why they backed him. He's definitely well handicapped off that mark. Do you know the interesting fact about Tutti Quanti in the Cheltenham Festival?
When he finished sixth
he was the only UK runner.
Yes, he was.
In the
only UK runner,
which is mad.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, was sixth at 125-1, split Grade 1 winners in Salvatore Mundi and Ironsi that day. If you look back at the Welsh Champion Hurdle in which he finished sixth, you obviously had Celtic Dino and Alexi, which obviously is strong form. But what price is Wilford going to go off next time? He finished third that day.
Yeah.
He was less than 4 lengths behind Celtic Dino, who's now £10 higher. Alexi is £20 higher. Tutti Quanti was raised £8 for this, who finished sixth. Wilford's only £1 higher.
He hasn't even been put up retrospectively.
Nope. He's £1 higher.
Wow.
Keep that in mind.
Is it John Jones?
It's obviously John Jones.
And their yard's quite...
Have they just started having runners now?
Yeah, so they obviously shut down for a bit with a little bit of a bug. But yeah, Wolfall's well worth looking for.
Excellent. Let's turn our attention to Ireland. You very briefly mentioned Cocktail Brute seeing off Blake narrowly. I thought Blake actually, when they first hit the line, I thought Blake had got it.
Yeah. I backed Cocktail Brute. it would have been embarrassing for me if he would have lost, because I ended up tipping an odds-on shot, albeit I went for him in the morning at a nice price before Love Me Tender was taken out, which is a bit of a shame. I thought that the race lost its lustre for his absentee. I don't think it's strong form, so the time figure we've got is well below the grade of that race. I don't think we're going to be seeing any Cheltenham Festival winners out of it. So yeah, I think that's what we learnt there with Cocktail Brew. He's going to be good, but he's not going to be top class.
Okay.
In my view. Similar
view about that race?
Yeah, I didn't think it was. I thought it was a weak contest.
Yeah,
with the non-runners.
Lacked any strength in depth this year. That.
Well, what about the Drinmore? I mean, I love Remo Coolio. Yeah. There's something about him, I can't quite put my finger on it, that is just so attractive to watch. Maybe it's the shape that he makes through the race, even like how he travels in the race, the shape he makes over a fence, the way he jumped the last. He's 11-2 for the Arkle after bolting up in the Drinmore. He's 14-1 for the Brown Advisory. What would you do with him?
I'd run him over 2 mile 1 at Christmas and see where you're at over that trip, because it's going to be interesting. If you go to the VIII at Limerick over Christmas, I think he is a 2.5 miler, but I don't think connections are going to miss the Cheltenham Festival. So I'd prefer to know going into Cheltenham whether you have a 2 miler or a 3 miler, or at least not have a 2 miler, because I was really impressed with this. I was surprised when I look at it that he only got a jump index from Race IQ of 8.2, because I thought he was brilliant. I thought it was a really cool ride by Jack Kennedy as well. If you watch it back, how still he is approaching and jumping the last fence, to have that confidence in a novice making his second start over fences where he only jumped, I think, 4 or 5 on his chasing debut. To have the confidence to do that when you haven't won a Grade 1 for over a year because of injury, I thought was a really good ride. I was really impressed with Romeo Coolio. Again, it probably wasn't the strongest of contests looking at the form, but I was really impressed with him, and I'd probably go, I think you could go any trip with him. He's got a really good cruising speed, but I do think it's worth taking on probably Kopek de Board in that 2 mile 1 reinstated Novice Chase at Christmas and see where you're at.
You touched on the race last year, Kopek de Board and William. When he moved into the race, he just ran out of steam at the end, and it looks like a horse that I think needed to strengthen up.
Yeah.
He and I'm not saying he is this, so just in case anyone shoots me down in the Paul Nicholls, this is the next Denman, I'm not saying that. But he reminds me a little bit of Best Mate in terms of how he raced different trips.
Yeah.
Best Mate was a Haldon Gold Cup horse, but won the Gold Cup 3 times. So he could run in all sorts of different trips. I like the way he moves through his races. He's clearly got some speed, he's got class, and he can stretch it out a little bit. So I don't know where they're going to end up. That's the thing, though.
I mean, the ideal race for him, if there was a race at Cheltenham, was the 2.5. Yeah. We all know that. So Connections have got a lot of thinking time between now and the festival, if they do go down the festival route, to work out whether he's a 2 miler or a 3 miler. I mean, you'd say the 2.5 mile at Aintree would ideally be his race if they wanted to skip the big guns at the festival, because he's got to go back up against Lalambra and Kopek de Boer. That's not going to be easy. And you know, the 3 mile division looks like being quite strong as well. Jimmy Desoy, Final Demand, Wendigo. Yeah. that's shaping up quite nicely. But it's that preservation of energy over his fences which I think is always going to stand him in good stead. Yeah. You know, as the songs go, born to run, born to be wild, he's very much born to jump, isn't he? Yeah. He just looks a totally different model. Yeah. Yes, he hasn't taken on the real top echelon of chases yet, but there is just something about him. I've always been a big fan. I backed him in the Supreme last season and didn't think he did a huge lot wrong on the day, but I think we're beginning to see now fulfil his potential.
That's it. Yeah, he's grown up. He's stronger. He looks set. Everything about him looks like he's ready to deliver on what we think he can. Okay, floors opened up to anything else you want to mention from the last week?
Yeah, there's quite a few. I was really impressed with the horse of Harry Fry's at Bangor. He won by a long margin. I know he's 14-1 on, but he clocked a number around there that was not far off graded level without coming out of third gear. Idaho Sun. Yeah. He won really well the first day when he beat one of Warren Greatch's, who inexplicably got beat at Cheltenham next time out on the Sunday. One of Dan Skelton's run him out of it. I can't remember its name now. Was it Gaelic Pride? I think it was Gaelic Pride. And the time figure for that race that day at Fontwell was really good, so I thought this is definitely a horse to follow. Yeah. So I backed Gaelic Pride next time out, so I'm following the form. And then when he went to Bangor the day, I was blew away. His number, like I say, was not far off some of the better horses we've seen so far this season. I think the best novice hurdler we've seen over here so far, without shadow of a doubt, to pure times and class, was Active Innocence. Nicky Henderson's horse.
That was a good race.
The way he run down that Sinatra, who the Skeltons think a hell of a lot of, and he did a lot right the other day in comparison to his first run when he did a lot wrong. And he just blew him out the water. His sectionals from 3 out to the line were the quickest over the 2-day period. His overall was the best hurdle time. Yeah. He is definitely supreme hurdle material. There's no doubt about that. And put it this way, he's 25 to 1 for the Supreme. Whereas my daddy Paddy is, what, 8 to 1?
Seven to 1.
The differences in the two time figures that we have for those two horses is like chalk and cheese. And I'm not saying my Paddy Daddy is not a good horse, but he's done nothing at the moment to suggest he's an 8 to 1 Supreme Novices Hurdle favourite. Whereas Active Innocence has already put a marker down. Yeah. He's the best UK hurdler, novice hurdler, by a mile.
Okay.
So he should not be 25 to 1.
25 to 1 for the Supreme with Bet365 Active Innocence, for which my daddy Paddy or my Paddy Daddy, whichever one you want to go.
I think Johnny Deneen had a bit of a problem with that the other day.
Both have different connotations, don't they?
Yeah.
7 to 1, Bambino Fever 12s for that Supreme. Anything else you want to mention from the last week?
I thought Monch 2 was much better with the hood reapplied in that juvenile hurdle. It would just be interesting to see where she runs next onto how high up Gordon's juvenile hurdlers are, because if she goes for a kind of a weak listed juvenile hurdle in the UK, you'll know that she's not the best. If she goes to the spring juvenile at the DRF, you know that she's probably the main contender from that yard.
Okay, anything else?
Just one more as well on a fairly lowish level, but I think we're going to be seeing and hearing bigger and better things of him further down the line. I was really impressed by a Henderson horse at Lingfield the other day, Noble Park. He'd landed a bit of a gamble when he won at Hereford a few weeks earlier.
Yes.
I think he was rated 1-1-12, don't quote me on that, but in and around that mark. And he made slight heavy weather of it. But then they punted him again at Lingfield the other day and he absolutely bolted up. I was blown away by him. He won ease down. Again, his time figure was suggesting he's miles better than his mark. He's probably going to go up close to 130 now. I don't know.
It's £11.
He's gone up 11. So what's that? What do you mean?
He's gone up
130.
To 125.
125. I would say he's a 135, 140 horse, and it wouldn't surprise me if Connections had a little bit of a look at that novices handicap at Kempton. It's Boxing Day or the day after.
Van der Poel that he thumped in that race, the Ben Pauling horse.
I know Van der Poel's engine cut out, but Van der Poel is very highly regarded.
Well, yeah.
He made complete mincemeat of him.
I'm going to bring him up later on.
Yeah, he doesn't want 2.5, by the way. He's a 2 miler. And I think that's because I think that was slightly overplayed on how he ran. But either way, Noble Park.
Noble Park.
What's his space, and keep an eye on him throughout the rest of the season.
Okay, I think that just about the only horse I'd add to that list is Moon Rocket of Kim Bailey and Matt Nichols, who won at Doncaster. A 5-year-old on a chasing debut, he absolutely bolted up. Only a small field, maybe a couple of horses underperformed, Henry II being one of them. But he beat a useful horse in second. Don't know how good he could be, but he was smart on his chasing debut.
Time was good.
And the time
was the best on the card.
Excellent. Yep. Moon Rocket. And the stable going quite well. Kim Bailey and Matt Nichols. That has been this week's racing recap. Now, before we get into our weekend preview, just to let you know that our sponsor, Bet365, have a best odds guaranteed offer. It's available on every single UK and Irish race from 8 a.m. on the day of the race. If you take a price and the SP is bigger, Bet365 will pay you at the bigger odds, and full T's and C's can be found on the website. To this weekend's action, and the focus is at Sandown with the running of the Tingle Creek, for which Willie Mullins' Il Était Temps is the 4-7 favourite with Bet365. Le de Sud 2-1. John Bon 9-2. John Bon's also got an entry in the Becher Chase on Sunday as well. Liberty Under 25s, Boot Hill and Edwardstone 66-1. I'll start you off here because Il Était Temps and Le de Sud, the two greys at the top of the market. But I mean, who'd thought at the start of the season John Bon would be 9-2 for for Tingle Creek?
The race revolves around him, doesn't he? Number one, is he going to come here or is he going to go for the Peterborough Chase over a longer trip? And two, will returning to Sandown bring him back to his best? If you look on ratings of his 24 starts under rules, 5 of his best 8 performances have come at Sandown. His win in this last year by 8 lengths over Quilixios is bettered only by his Clarence House victory by over Energumene in January and his Melling Chase victory over Protectorat at Aintree this year. That Schlur Chase was bad though. He had a wind up coming into it. He didn't travel with his normal zest. And the worst thing was his jumping. His jump index was only 6.0 that day and jumped left-handed as if something was amiss. And you'd have to have question marks about him going forward.
Yeah, likewise. I think he's probably had his day in the sense that I think he's peaked. And it's still going to be a very high level, John Bob, and it's not going to be the level that is good enough to beat these up-and-coming young horses who have probably just got less mileage and less baggage and less scars. I think he's doing things now which are not quite in accordance with a top-class chaser, particularly the mistakes that are creeping into his game around Cheltenham. I actually braved the elements for the Schlur Chase and went outside and watched that. And given the conditions, you couldn't believe how quick they were going. When they went past you in front of the sun, you think, Christ, how are they going to keep this gallop up? And for the first time, I really thought Loda Sud came of age. I know he's won a Grade 1 before, which seems strange when he won a lesser grade race, Grade 2. But yeah, I thought he was magic. I thought his jumping was pinpoint. And the Skeltons have just got that massive sort of push in the early part of the season to get these horses to peak and to, you know, get as much kind of traction going forward before, you know, Mullins comes out with these Britanners. And I just think he's had no stone unturned with all of them. You know, with the Holden Gold Cup, with Panic Attack, with Loda Sud. And you've just got to strike with it while the iron's hot with them. And I think Loda Sud will beat Il Était Temps. Obviously, Sandown's not a problem to him. You know, he was good in the Henry VIII round there. Yeah. The ground's not going to be a problem. I'm a big fan of Il Était Temps at the same time. But I don't get the 4 to 7, 2 to 1 differential. I think a week ago they were like 4 to 5. 100, you could have got 130 Loda Sud. So even if John Bunter's turn up, I don't think it'll have any difference on the outcome of the race with regards who one of them will definitely win it. But I definitely think that Loda Sud's the value at 2 to 1.
I actually think, I agree with you, and I actually think if you go back to looking at Loda Sud's 3 runs at the beginning of last season, he obviously ran at Stratford, then Cheltenham, and then he went to the Henry VIII at Sandown. And I actually thought that was perhaps, of those 3 performances, the thinnest performance, because even though he won, I didn't think he jumped as well as he can do. And he was sent on, he had to just come off the bridle to get to the front, and then he made a mistake at the second to last and last. And I actually think they've talked about it. He's better when he's fresher, and he had that one run, yes, at Cheltenham, but he floated around there. And I'm thinking he's even better than the run at Sandown that he won last year. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he goes around. I'm with Loda Sud. Are you Il Était Temps, Loda Sud?
I think Il Était Temps, I'd just go that way because even if a horse looks as if it's had an easy race, it's really put in a big effort. And I thought Loda Sud is the epitome of that, really. That's only 22 days ago. The handicapper raised him £8 for that, but it's well over a stone better than anything he's achieved previously. And I just thought, even though he wasn't pushed along, he didn't see the whip, I thought he would have had a hard race there. That was 22 days ago. Il Était Temps gets an extra week. That Clonmel Oil that he won was week contest. And I just thought that extra week might well give Il Était Temps that little cushion. But I do agree with Andy. I think there's too big a price discrepancy between the two. I haven't had a bet in the race and I probably won't at those prices.
All right. The Henry VIII, we also have a very short price favourite. That's Lulamba. 4 to 7 with Bet365. Be Aware from the Skeltons team, 5 to 1. Lump Sum, 5 to 1. Al Nalam, 6 to 1. Steel Ally from the same stable as Lump Sum. I'm not sure both will run. They have run against each other in the past. 6 Mile Bridge, Steel Ally, 9 to 1. For this race, Lulamba is coming with that one win. Be Aware ran okay at Cheltenham. Lump Sum was pretty impressive. Al Nalam won nicely at Cheltenham. If those 4 line up, and maybe one other, it's quite a nice little race.
Yeah, the time figures are really good for all these as well. Lump Sum clocked a big number when he won Uttoxeter, beat Jax Jr., who's no back number. I mean, I know Jax Jr. got visibly tired late on the ground, and he was bedded down better ground going right-handed, but that form is there for all to see. Similar to what we talked about with certain trainers down to Skelton, we know Sam Thomas has got his horses absolutely on the money. These early season races which he's targeted, he's pretty much hit the bullseye every time. So if he runs out rather than Steel Alloy, who was also good at Carlisle, then you've got to pay him a huge amount of respect. I thought Be Aware's jumping, Steve will touch up on the jump index for him. That was one of the high scores of the season when he got beat by July Flay. He could not have done any more. So even in defeat, that was a career high effort by him. And I think Skelton will ride that really attackingly around Sandown. He's tailor-made for those fences down the back. But you've just got to look at Lalamba, and he just looks in a different class to the rest. I know they took fences out of the way down the back straight at Exeter, which kind of, I won't say poured cold water on the performance, but we would have liked to have seen all the fences in there to get a real impression of what he did. But they went a good gallop that day. The Fergal O'Brien horse, who's talented Tripoli Fly, went a proper pace. Like I say, the time figure was exceptionally good, and he just cruises away from good horses. And I think he's the only horse that can touch Cap Hector Board, and we saw what Cap Hector Board did first time out. Yeah. So, as much respect I have for Be Aware, for Lump Sum, for Steel Alloy, I just think we're dealing with a Sergino. We're just dealing with that horse who's just got that extra bit about him. You know, it's like comparing an Erling Haaland to a Nunes, isn't it? Someone who finishes every now and again and does a lot of work, but he's not the class of Haaland. So I think Lalamba will win.
Are you an Erling Haaland fan here, Lalamba?
I'd probably be against him at the prices. I think Be Aware is the bet here. I just think he's really, really solid. He was a 7.8 jump index at Stratford on his debut and then bettered that with an 8.6 at Cheltenham. And I thought jumped brilliantly and ran a brilliant race behind July Flower that day. That 7.8 on debut, and I'm going to use that as the figure because that was his chasing debut, and a lot of these have only had one run. That was better than the 7.4 from Steel Ally, 7.1 from 6 Mile Bridge, 6.2 from Al Nalam. Lalamba only got 6.0. I thought he was very up and down, Lalamba. It was only 5 runners in that, and he was 4th out of 5 on the speed lost going away from the fence. And that was showed with his jump-in technique. I'd be slightly worried over those railway fences whether he'll just get out of a rhythm by going too up and down. And I think, like Andy touched on, I think Harry Skelton will be aware of that and really attack at that point of the race.
Be aware.
On Be Aware.
Very good.
Thanks. I didn't even mean to do it. You touched on Lotus' campaign. It was a handicap chase at Stratford, then went to Cheltenham, then went for this race, and they've done exactly the same with Be Aware. That's on the back of being hard battled in. It was a Greatwood hurdle for Be Aware, and it was a county hurdle for Lodesud, but he's been in the rough and tumble of these big handicap hurdles. They've got experience into him, and at the prices, I would definitely be with Be Aware.
For similar reasons, I like Lump Sum, who's a tough horse. And you remember that when he ran behind Jericho de Repene at Doncaster, I said there was something about him that I really liked. I've followed him ever since, and I really liked his chasing debut where he beat Jax Jr. because they both raced. Quite often in these novice chases, they dawdle, and then one of them gets away and they cruise to victory. But he and Jax Jr. separated themselves from everything else, and they trapped down to the last 4 fences there at Uttoxeter, and he jumped really well under pressure. And I thought that would stand him in really good stead. He's obviously got a bit of a gap to make up, but I don't think it's that significant. And he's exciting for novice chasers, so Lump Sum for me. In the Henry VIII. Also on the weekend, it's the Becher at Aintree, and some familiar names are back. Mr. Van Gogh will potentially be carrying top weight if he's declared. 9-2 with Bet365. Gaborio, who ran well last time, 6-1. Gallia de Leto, 8-1. White Rhino, 8-1. Bioluminescence, 10s. King Turgeon, 10s. Monbeg Genius. Tanganyika also all a 10-1. Steve, I say some familiar names. Gaborio will be my selection in this race. He's right down. I think he might be £1 out of the handicap, but he's right down at the bottom. But this is a more suitable trip. Definitely, yeah. You've got, I think, 5 reoppos from the Sefton, but Gaborio for a second year in a row has really caught our eye with how he ran in the Sefton. Obviously, this race was abandoned
last year, and I'd say connections were as gutted as I was, the fact that he didn't actually run in that. He didn't quite show the same level of form over the conventional fences on his next 3 starts, but again caught the eye over 2 mile 5 in the Sefton again this year. If you look at his career victories in the UK and the distances that they've come over, it's 3 miles, 3 miles, 3 mile 1, 4 miles and 3 mile 1. So this step back up to 3 mile 2 will definitely suit him. His runs in the Sefton have been off a mark of 127 and a mark of 124. He's rated 125, but like you said, the lowest weight carried is 10 stone 2. He's down to carry 10 stone 1. So if Mr. Van Gogh runs, he'll be a pound out the handicap, which I think is still fine. Given that form over the Grand National fences, given the fact that this the trip will suit him a lot better than in the Grand Sefton, I thought it was a great bet.
I'm glad I mentioned him and then you made the case for it. That's how it should always be. What do you like here, Andy?
Yeah, I've been quietly impressed by the way that Warren Greatchecks has gone about his work in the last year or two. I think he's had to rebuild his stock. He's got a lot of owners now that have backed him. I'm not saying he's in the days of Cole Harden quite yet, but he is bringing together a nice team. Yeah. And Bill Baxter was one of his stars a couple of years ago when he won the John Hughes. So he's got experience over the fences. I would have had my doubts about the trip with him other than his last 2 starts. He won over 3 miles 2 runs ago, and I thought it was a really good run the other day beyond High Tikilur over hurdles. That very much said to me that was a prep rather than the be-all and end-all of winning that race that day for Aintree. So I'd like to see Bill Baxter go well again. Like I say, Warren's a class act, and he's not far away, in my opinion, from getting back to the real big time. So fingers crossed that horses like Bill Baxter can pave the way for a really good season for Warren.
Okay, yeah, 11-1 with Bet365, Bill Baxter. There are a few other races, just very briefly going to mention. There's the Grade 2 Winter Novices Hurdle on the Friday at Sandown. Potentially no drama this end, might line up for this.
Yeah.
If he does, is he a good thing or?
I'd say he's got the best form because heads up is no back number. He was second in the bumper, the champion bumper at the festival. He'd won well at Listowel. He was very much given license to do his own thing at Cheltenham. Got a nice clean run of it. He was 5-6 lengths ahead of No Drama This End all the way around, and No Drama This End took him out fairly easily. Yes, okay, you could argue that Harry Cobden used his noddle and went wide on the better ground, and the young jockey who rode heads up went round the inside and the swamp, which I think probably swung it a little bit too dramatically one way or the other. But I think he probably would have won anyway. And I think a horse like this really does need to get himself into that sort of Grade 1 level to give, I think, Paul Nicholls something to hang his hat on this season. And I think this is a horse that could end up being, he's number 1 star for him for the remainder.
I also think he blew up at Cheltenham.
Yes.
I know he won relatively comfortably in the end, but I had a chance to speak to Paul Nicholls after the race, and he was saying that they hadn't really got stuck into him yet.
Yep.
Which leads me to thinking that he actually won despite not being 100%. So I'm expecting a sharper model. Do you see any dangers to No Drama this end?
No, I thought he'd win this. Interesting that they're doing this en route to the Challow. They did have Quebecois finish second to Bill Joyce in this last year, though. Speaking of him, he runs in the Grade 2 Esher Novices Chase, renews rivalry with Doyen Quest, who beat him by 10 lengths at Exeter. It was interesting, the weights in that. Doyen Quest conceded £5 to him that day, only concedes £3 in this and beat him by 10 lengths. Yeah. That was Doyen Quest's 4th run over fences, though, and obviously that was Quebecois' first under rules. They'd both ran in a point-to-point previously for that. But yeah, I think at the prices, I think the Bet365 have got that right with Doyen Quest as favourite to confirm that form, given the weight.
There's another one in that race. It's called
Salva.
No, there's another one I quite liked. I can't remember what it is. Have you got the betting there in front of you?
No.
I haven't got the betting, unfortunately.
I did make a note of that race, and that was a race I was going to mention, but I just can't remember the one I like. I think it was the 4th in the betting.
Okay, well, I was going to mention Salva, who's in that race, who I quite liked, who ran behind Alhambra.
He did.
And actually got close in terms of the actual race part of it, even though Fingal Bridge finished second.
Yeah.
In the actual heat of the race, Salva got closest to Alhambra before, again, he blew up, I thought. And he's going back up to a more suitable trip for this race, having run over hurdles. So I thought his chasing debut was encouraging enough at Exeter. So he's the horse I liked. I might look that up whilst we talk about the Peterborough. Shall we?
If you start with Stephen, I'll just quickly have a look at his name. Yes.
On Sunday. So Jello, 11-10 to repeat his win in the race last year. But John Bond, we don't know where he's going. He's in this 6-4 with Bet365. St Sam 11-4. Hitman 11-2. Boomborn 9. You've got the horse.
Lawrence Bay.
Lawrence Bay. Okay.
Tailor made for 3 miles. He looks a totally different horse over 3 miles, and of course he won the EBF final at Sandown.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one to
There you go, Lawrence Bay.
Okay, we've all gone for a different horse in that race. Okay.
Mine wasn't a selection. I could understand why. I'd be against Quebecois at the weight.
Yeah. What about Jello repeating his win in the race? Even if John Bond turned up?
Yeah, I'd like him. I don't think going right-handed will hinder him in any sort of way. It isn't a race that I've looked at a huge amount because I don't think you really can until you know where John Bond's going to go. So, yeah, he would be, but not a bet current odds.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Jello. He's very similar to Load of Sud. You've got to hit him before Christmas.
Yeah.
He still runs to a good level after, but, you know, racing at the festival and then at Aintree, his form just tapers off a bit. I thought he was really good first time out. Given a really nice ride, went wide, looked for the better ground. Just looked a happy horse, looked in good terms with himself. But 2.5 miles, right-handed, Huntingdon, yeah, it's right up his street, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all with Jello. Anything else that you want to mention coming up? Saving your best bet for later, but anything else you want to mention?
No, I was going to get onto my best bet, but we'll hold tight. Yeah.
Are you going to mention Just Enemy by any chance?
Another
depending on when you watch this, runs in a beginner's chase at Haydock on Wednesday.
I hope he runs.
Off level weights, despite only being rated 127 against rivals rated 141 and 130. So Harry Derham clearly doesn't care about his handicap mark and thinks he's going to be a graded level performer.
He would have been a good thing last weekend.
Yeah, he would.
Novice's handicap chaser. Anyway, yes, I was going to mention him. I'll also mention one horse who would probably be my best bet. I'm not going to, but he's entered in 2 races. O'Connell, who is entered in
Sandown.
3 mile on Friday and the London National.
Did he win that before?
Did he win? He won the 3 mile.
I remember a slow motion.
So he won at 3 mile February, back in February, where I think Indoor, who's also due to run this weekend, was behind him having trouble. Yeah, anyway, so he's going to be a horse of whatever race he runs in. I'm hoping it's the London National though. So those are a few horses that added to the chat about what's coming up this week at Sandown and indeed at Huntingdon. Right, now before we get into our best bets of the meeting, just to let you know of a free-to-play 6 horses challenge. It's available every weekend with free spins on offer if you get 2 or 3 selections correct. Prize pools available for 5 and 4 correct predictions, as well as a jackpot for all 6, and T's and C's apply. So it's time for our best bets of the weekend, and Andy's been champing at the bit. Away you go.
Yeah, I think this horse is going to have a really bright future, regardless of how he gets on Saturday. I presume he runs. He's down to run the first race at Chepstow on Saturday in the 11:55 called the Price of Peace. Runs in the Horticolor colours, trained by Rebecca Curtis. I think we're going to be hearing big things of him. Whether he goes down the Novice Chase route in a couple of years' time and ends up being the new Horticolor, only time will tell. But I thought he ran a very encouraging race first time at Foss last in a race which was good on the time figures and has worked out really well subsequently. Kalkbrenner was the winner.
Oh, okay.
Ben Pauling's horse. How that didn't win on Saturday was unfathomable. But coincidentally, he got beat by a horse who ran in that very race, who was a very big eye catcher. Lovely horse of Toby Laws's, Klimt Madrick, who turned the form around with Kalkbrenner, having looked as though he'd need the run at Foss last. So the winner and the 4th have both franked the form. And lo and behold, the 2nd franked the form as well, Swindon Village, who was a little bit headstrong and did a lot wrong at Leicester the other day, but he still managed to win. So that time figure, that race from Foss last, which was one of the better early seasons ones that we got on our numbers, has worked out accordingly. Kalkbrenner, Klimt Madrick, Swindon Village, and Price of Peace was, I think he was either 2nd or 3rd, but he finished off his race really eye-catchingly. Got his head down, looks a genuine honest type, definitely a chase in the making, and Chepstow is very much right up his street on Saturday. So Price of Peace, my horse for the weekend and to follow for the rest of his career. I think he's a good horse in the making.
Lovely. Price of peace then for Andy. Steve?
I'm going to rewind 12 months back to this very show when I napped Knickerbocker Glory in the 225 at Sandown. It's the bet at your best handicap hurdle, the race he won last year. Put him up at 10 to 1 at this time last year. Went off 13 to 8 and beat Nemean Lion by 8 lengths in an impressive performance. He's won on his reappearance for the past 3 seasons off marks of 129, 130 and 132. Runs here off a mark of 138, but that extra £6 definitely wouldn't have stopped him last year. I was actually quite keen on him for the Greatwood Hurdle, but he ended up being a non-runner. Stable had a kind of a better prospect, I suppose, with Mirabad. So they've come back to here. I'm sure he's going to relish these conditions and is 100 to 30. Not quite the 10 to 1 of last year, but 100 to 30, definitely still acceptable.
All right, so Knickerbocker Glory at Sandown for Steve. And I'm going for O'Connell, hopefully in the London National. He was a good comeback third at Carlisle off 132, the same mark in which he was second in the Ida to Knockanore off 132. He won at Sandown over 3 miles back in February. Gavin Sheehan's ridden him 3 times in the past. He's won twice on him. And he rode him in that comeback race at Carlisle, and it was the way he rode him was a comeback ride. He just crept into the race late on, finished off quite nicely, the perfect comeback to set him up for coming back to Sandown. He's also entered in the 3-mile chase on Friday at Sandown, but I'm hoping that the 3-mile 4 of the London National is more up his street, as well as the prize money for the race is far more valuable than the race on Friday. So I'm expecting that's where he's going, and if he does, I think he'll take all the beating. So that's O'Connell in the London National. On Saturday, Knickerbocker Glory at Sandown this weekend for Steve, and Price of Peace at Chepstow for Andy. Thank you both very much for joining us on this show. Andy, are you out and about? You saying this week you're going to go to Sandown maybe?
No, actually, no, I'm not.
Football?
Yeah, I've struggled to cope with Liverpool and their form this season. So I've been offered a few tickets, but I've turned a couple of games down. It was too painful, but they did okay against West Ham. They look as though they perhaps stop the bleeding. If they get a couple of wins against Sunderland and next weekend, it might not be looking too bad. But no, I think I'm just going to have a quiet week. And Steve, you're out racing?
Dashing off to Racing TV later on today, not going physically racing. I might, if John Bond runs, I might head to Huntingdon, my local jumps track,
of course,
on Sunday in order to see him, because that would be a really good contest if he runs in that.
Well, thank you both very much for joining me, and thank you for watching this episode of Racing Weekly, brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365. As always, if you like what you've heard or watched in this or any of our previous episodes, leave us a kind review on Apple Podcasts or in the comments section on YouTube. Next week, we're going to be back, joined by Ed Quigley, to look ahead to the Cheltenham December meeting. We hope you can join us for that, but for now, bye-bye.